Welcome to HopeCast. I'm your host, Diane Currie-Sam, and I have with me today Susan Blanchett, the CEO and founder of Origen Air, a plant-based Internet of Things connected commercial air purification system based in Victoria, BC. So welcome, Susan. Let's tell some stories.
Perfect. I'm really happy to be here, Diane. Thank you for inviting me to come on your podcast.
Great. Well, I want to start right into the technology. Tell me about your solution. I want to hear about the biosphere on the roof of every major city by 2030. I love that, but I want to know how it's going to happen. And you talked about how you're going to recirculate 80% of the air in buildings, a 40% reduction in energy and GHG. What's the technology? What is it doing? And why is it benefiting people?
Well, right now, as you can see behind me, this is our commercial air purifier that's on the market. It cleans 8,000 cubic feet, so perfect for where people gather in boardrooms. And the technology is a combination of mechanical air purification in the base of it. It's got two MERV filters where air is pulled in by a fan and motor and goes through those filters first. That takes out large particles. And then it goes through our biofilter, which is our secret sauce. We have super plants that have been genetically modified with a liver enzyme. So this enzyme removes toxins from the air. So volatile organic compounds are down to the parts per billion. They pass through the first filters, which are the normal filters that are in any HVAC system. And then our plants turn them into oxygen and plant growth. And then we also have air quality sensors that we'll place in the room and on the outlet of our machine, so we can tell you in real time how much the air is being improved. And this can earn points for your environmental social governance. But this is just the beginning. Like what what you're talking about, the biospheres, that's our big goal. We're still working towards that. The plan for that is to develop over the next 3 years. We are currently putting together partnerships to make this happen and want to put biospheres on buildings.
So help me to visualize what a biosphere, because I'm a storyteller. I thought that's a cool word, biosphere. That sounds very futuristic. So help me picture it. What actually is that? It's in the roof of my building. It's in a bunch of those units. What actually is it?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a whole new building-centered project. The problem with my current unit is even if I'm cleaning the air, it's not going to make the building owner turn the HVAC system down. So pre-COVID, buildings represented approximately 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. When COVID happened, facility managers started pulling in more and more air exchanges. And that's where the energy use and the carbon footprint come from. So by pulling in more air, the energy use happens because of the need to heat or cool that air to the ambient 18 degrees that most buildings are at. So, if you're in Canada in the winter, you're heating the air. If it's summer, you're cooling the air. And that's where the carbon footprint comes from. The problem is they don't recirculate this air. It's just pulled in like a bathtub without a plug, currently running all day, every day. So we want to put a bit of a plug in that and be able to recirculate the air through a rooftop biosphere, which will be a combination with the HVAC system. So air is still passing through the MERV or HEPA filters, but it will also have resonance time in our biosphere, where the plants will be able to remove volatile organic compounds, which will allow for recirculation of up to 80% of the air. And this is what would bring down the footprint. We're not eating carbon. Obviously, the plants do take in some carbon and turn it into oxygen, but the savings will come from pulling in less air and recirculating
it through your system in the building. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know. So at the end of the day, as someone walking in that building, I'm going to have cleaner air, healthier air. As someone say managing that building, I'm going to have a lower energy bill and clean air, which I also want. Yeah. Okay. See, we got to the benefit. This is what I love about technology. Thank you. So then let's tell the future story. So let's just imagine it's 5, 10, 20 years out. How has this impacted Canada? How has it impacted the world? Where's your company in that time frame?
Yeah, so right now, my main focus with the company is just to grow as many of these special plants as possible, because this current unit behind me has 26 plants in it. And this is the one that we've tested and shown the reduction in laboratory of up to 80% of volatile organic compounds. But in the field where benzene or toluene, all the gases that can cause harm to people over time, they're not as highly concentrated as the studies we did in the laboratory. So in the field, we're finding a 37% reduction in volatile organic compounds. So by doing that, we will be able to recirculate the air, because some of the problems with the air recirculation right now, one, they were worried about coronavirus. So there might have to be also another development, and another patent we filed is on sterilization chamber for viruses and bacteria as well. So this is all what we will be developing in the future. Patents are filed, developments begun. But as you can imagine, to put a biosphere on the roof of a building, it takes some time. So in 5, 10, 20 years, we're hoping to have our first biosphere completed in 3 years, with partnerships and funding that we are putting together now. And then in 5, 10, 20 years, like you said, we're hoping to have biospheres on the roofs of buildings and cities across North America. I've also been on several trade missions to Southeast Asia, where air pollution is even more kind of an in-your-face problem. It's starting to become more of something that people are aware of in the last 3 to 4 years in North America. But we want to do it where the problem is in your face. And
so we as consumers of air, really, of buildings, and sounds funny to say that, but I guess we are, aren't we, consumers of air? We will be healthier, and we will have more confidence in that air pollution and what we are breathing in around us will be safe and healthy.
Yeah, I think especially I live on the west coast of Canada, and when I first started the company 4 years ago, a lot of people that I pitched to or spoke with were like, well, we don't have an air problem here. I think that has changed a lot, right? With the wildfires this summer, we realized the problem. And with the pandemic, like, just because you see it doesn't mean there's not something harmful in our air. For instance, my unit behind me here in LEED Platinum buildings, I'm finding my pre-filters, which are the HEPA filters, are all pitch black in less than 2 months.
Wow. Yeah.
Even in LEED Platinum buildings, just because you can't see it doesn't mean you aren't breathing in harmful toxins that can cause disease over time.
So when did this all start? So tell me your moment. Like, we all have that, like, oh God, I got to do something about this, or this is a cool idea, or.
Well, it actually started a long time ago for me. I, as a teenager, read Rachel Carson's Silent Spring and was horrified that toxins in our environment accumulate in our bodies. So I became an environmental lawyer. And for 14 years, I practiced mainly in contaminated sites, holding operators accountable for contamination. Then, unfortunately, right around the time I started, my father was diagnosed with early onset dementia, and he was only 51. Like, I'm getting very close to that age, and it's young. And the more I looked into it, like, there were no genetic factors. He was healthy. He ate right. He ran every day. And because of my experience with contaminated sites, I did more research. I was like, if it's not genetic, it had to be environmental. But how do you prove that?
Yeah.
Or air moves. He'd been a civil engineer working in wastewater treatment, notoriously bad air, but there was no way that I could prove it.
Yeah.
So I learned how to clean it. So
Yeah.
2019, I found these genetically modified plants. They'd been developed at the University of Washington over the last 15 years. So I started negotiations with UW and initially had co-exclusive license, and then I've renegotiated and now I have a global exclusive license to the plants.
Great. Yeah. So the plants, you looked at those and thought, wow, these have something here.
Well, and it still requires, unfortunately, a lot of education because the population thinks that plants clean toxins out of the air because of a NASA study that was done in the 80s.
Yeah.
But we've proven that regular plants, and actually the NASA study, they've even written that it was not accurate. It was carbon in the soil that was absorbing the toxins. And those are our competitors. Like carbon filters can take out VOCs, sorbents can take out VOCs, but unlike those two technologies, our plants are the only technology that won't end up in a landfill. So every other filter is just going to end up in a landfill where we are the sustainable option.
Nice. Yeah.
Plants have been proven not only in laboratory, but also in the field through funding from NRC IRAP and Innovate BC. We completed those studies earlier this year that showed the 37% reduction. But what we also showed in that study is that wild plants didn't remove anything.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So tell me about your customers. Are you still piloting? I'd like to hear a story about that. Like, where are these now installed and what are they doing now?
Yeah, so we have many customers. Our pilots were all completed at the end of 2022. 2023, we've installed, and 2022, we've installed with large property managers, Hudson Pacific Properties, Bentel Green Oak, Cushman Wakefield, Telus. So we've really taken off this year with our customers.
Is there one that really stands out for you, Susan? I know you're proud of them all, I'm sure, right? But one that was like, oh, we did this. And when I walked in there and I saw that thing running.
Yeah, all of them have been incredible to be able to showcase our technology in Vancouver and also in Toronto. I'm part of the Women Business Enterprise Group, which is female-owned and operated companies, which if you're a female-owned business, I highly recommend because it gets you direct introductions to the decision makers on procurement. Because another one of my passions is helping other female founders.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I was, in my law class of 1999, it was the first class of 51% females. So while I was practicing law, I was thinking, okay, we're doing all right for equality until I started my company and realized women get less than 2% of VC funding. But even worse than that, women get less than 0.05% of procurement. So through this incredible organization, I was introduced to Telus, which for an early stage company to have 10 installations in Vancouver and Toronto with Telus is just a huge bonus for our commercialization, right? Like
nice.
Rubber from your customers.
Yeah. But I love that you found a network, a group that supported you and you could also support them in turn. And those are fascinating stats as a 50 plus woman working in the area of technology, have for decades. I hear you. I hear that barriers to money and let's be blunt, right? It's the funding, it's the money, it's the access to the introductions and the network, like you said, procurement and funding. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you. And I think procurement is something people don't think about, but really, we want to be a commercially viable business. We don't want to just take funding. We want to earn revenue.
Yeah.
But to do that, you need customers. And really, that's all that matters when you're running a business is customers and keeping them happy and doing a great job for them. But you have to get them in the beginning.
Yeah.
So to have organizations that are focused on actual procurement, which in the discussion is not always the first thing people talk about. But if women are getting less than 0.05% of procurement, we have to change that. I love the name of your podcast being the HopeCast.
Yeah.
Just coming back from UN Climate Week, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was one of the awardees for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal Challenge called the We Empower UN SDG Challenge. I was the awardee for North America and Europe. And we're at Climate Week where, for one, there's a lot of lost hope, right? We've been trying to make impact for 25 years now. We're not on target for our Paris Accord goals. And when the 5 of us awardees pitched, the hope in the room was just...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we pitched the next day as well at the Global Futures Conference. And one of the coolest things that happened during that entire week was a few hours later, we were walking downtown New York on the other side of town, going to a women event at the United Nations. And these 20-something-year-olds behind me were like, oh, these women were pitching. And I turned around and they're like, oh, it's you.
Oh, that's exciting.
It was so exciting because you're right. It is about hope. And there's a lot of people doing these incredible innovations. And I think the funding, we've gotten a lot of funding from government, from arm's length, government organizations. And the additional missing piece, I'm going to call out the large corporations here, but the world has changed and we can't just rely on the government to fund all new innovation. I think there's a spot for large corporations who are really the recipient of most of the GDP. Like they're the ones earning all the profits. They need to step in and start funding some of these innovators. Because I can say after spending 14 years as a provincial lawyer, there's a place for government, but once a corporation gets to be as large as a government, that's when innovation kind of goes to the wayside because there's no fire burning in their staff's bellies. Like us entrepreneurs are the ones up at 3 a.m. to figure out how we're going to get our next customer or
organizing our meetings as we're cooking Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Exactly. So, a big call out to those corporations, and those are the people I'm trying to make partnerships right now with to develop the biosphere, because without them coming on as partners, it's not going to be possible for the innovators to create the change that is necessary.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, actually, Susan, because that was going to be my next question. I can just feel it from you. The entire interview is collaboration and connections and community, like the people that you work with and the vendors and partners. Is there a story of someone that you really, oh wow, these people collaborate really well, or this someone that you're working with that you are really happy to be and how you feel about them?
Well, we've made a lot of really good progress. I'm a Canadian, so I'd love to work with Canadian companies to develop this. We have made some partnerships with some global companies that are working to develop. We're actually coming out with a home unit because everybody wants one. So we decided to give people what they asked for. So that will be coming out mid 2024. And one of the companies we're working with, we also want to develop the large unit with, because they are experts in sensors. So they can assist in not only putting sensors on our home units, but also sensors on the large biosphere as well, to be able to monitor and measure what we're doing. Because whenever you're trying to do something different, you need to be able to show what you're doing, show your work, so people actually know it's doing what you say it's doing. And then the rest, we're looking to partner with large HVAC company who the companies we're working with also work with. So it's just more behind the scenes, putting everything together right now.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, like I
So
want to on a building, and I'd love to do it in Canada.
Yeah.
Right now I'm looking at doing it in the US just because of the connections and the people that are interested. But if there are Canadian companies listening, please reach out, because I'd love to not move out of Canada if I could.
So there's been a couple themes here, one about hope, one about collaboration, and the importance of operations and large commercial people stepping up for innovation. Let's get back to that moment where you heard the younger women behind you talking about the excitement to hear you pitch. What would you tell them? They're faced with a really uncertain future. We all are, but them in particular, what would you say to them?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because I started my journey into environmentalism in the 80s, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When there was still a lot of hope, but 30 years later, when we haven't made much progress, I would say that they have to raise their voices as well. And we have to let the large corporates know that we need their help. Like, we can't do this on our own. And once we can all collaborate to take some of these innovations to the forefront, is how we're going to bring that hope back.
Yes.
Right? It does feel like it's been lost a little bit. Like, even 3 days after I left New York City, the whole city's flooded. There's been floods all around the world. Like, it's happening. We can stop denying it and start working together for the future. And the innovators are there. Like, it wasn't just me in New York, it was 5 incredible women all doing really cool innovations. And like, one of them's geothermal, and that's one of the solutions for the future as well. Another was doing incredible coaching and teaching of the next generation. So, Corinne from Panama is probably even better than me to answer this question, because she coaches 8 to 18-year-olds to do what I'm doing. Right. But once we take this leap, right, like, I could have just kept being a lawyer, making a good income, and not being up at 3 a.m. every night.
Yeah.
But when we take a leap like this and spend our days trying to make a positive future, we just need that support. We need those collaborations to get to the next level. So there's a lot of talk, I think, still on the climate issues, but I haven't seen the action that's necessary. And we need that action, and we need it to come from more than just Sustainable Development Technology Canada, which I don't know if you read the news.
I did, yes.
They've been shut down, and they fund all of us early innovators, and we're all kind of in this standstill, which is also going to make investors and everyone.
I know we're in a climate emergency as declared by Parliament. Yeah, Susan, I hear you.
Yeah, I really do think SDTC is just going to be on a short hold, and will be open again. But there is a lot of uncertainty, and when we're at Climate Week and everywhere we go, people are saying and chasing us down and saying, this is the best thing I heard all week, and you give us hope, then that's where we need to put the money, because that's what people need right now, is some hope. And we've proven our technology works. We're growing the plants as fast as we can, because for the biospheres, I'm going to need thousands of plants.
Yep.
I have thousands, but I need millions
Yes.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I can't do it alone, and that's just the fact. So
well, thank you for that. Thank you. I can wrap it up now. This is it's Susan Blanchett from Origen Air. The link will be below when this is published. Is there anything coming up that you'd like to talk about, or anything? I know you talked about the home-based unit which I want to be on the first to know list. But is there something event coming up or anything you're really excited about we can talk about?
Well, I am excited. I've got an incredible team that works with me, and can't take the credit. Everything that all of our successes is because of our team. And one of my staff, I absolutely love her. She's in law school now, actually. Yeah, my alma mater. She's in first year, but she does a lot of our grants and awards. And somehow I'm up for Women Thought Leader of the Year for the Stevies in November. It just comes full circle to what we've been talking about. Like, I can be a thought leader, but I can't make it a reality without the support. And when I speak with all female and early stage startups, it's a constant theme that we're always grinding for business, but also on the outside of the business. And if it was a little easier to find those partnerships and collaborations, we would be able to just work on the innovations all the time. So I think I've worked so hard with my team to get where we are, and I just want to make this a reality as fast as possible. And I know with the correct partners, that can happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Susan. Again, this is Diane Currie-Sam with HopeCast. The link for Origen Air is going to be in the comments below. And thank you very much.
Thank you.